Hey, what's up, classic TV fans? My name is Rick9G. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about I Love Lucy. More specifically about the titular actress Lucille Ball, who played Lucy Ricardo on the show. Now, I've heard that many people out there, like myself, are big fans of the show and Lucille Ball, of course. Yet, there are people who still don't like the show, and that's understandable. There's always going to be people who don't and like something. That's just part of life. However, I've heard a lot of the criticisms are people saying that they don't like Lucy's voice. Now, there is something to say about that, and I'm going to look at and discover essentially all of the secret information that we have to do with Lucille Ball's voice. It has changed over the years throughout her career. There are reasons from it. I know some of you out there may say, well, it was because she smoked. Well, yes, that contributed to it, but there's a lot more to it than that. Even medical and just other biological reasons that I'm going to point out to you that I think will blow your mind. So let's get right to it. Now, this idea came about to me when I was watching recently an episode of I Love Lucy. It's number 97 on the list. It's called The Sublease. Now, this is one, if you watch syndication a lot, they don't play it often. Now, it's one where Ricky and Lucy are going to Maine for the summer, and the Mertzes are staying behind. So they decide that they're going to rent out the apartment, and they find this guy, Mr. Beecher. Now, Mr. Beecher was a witness in this murder trial, and he's super scared, and there's a scene of Ricky talking to him, and he just like runs out of the room. It's pretty hilarious and pretty funny. And then Lucy and Ethel try to perform a stunt to try to get Mr. Beecher out of the apartment and so forth. But I think what's very notable here is the voice of Lucille Ball, how raspy and rough it is. According to people who have studied Lucille Ball most of their life, they even have said that she was clearly tired and has this hoarse voice during the installment of this episode. Now, what they actually do, it was the last episode of season 3, so the whole cast took a month off of work before filming the 4 episodes that will be used for the following 4th season. Now, let's take a listen to Lucy's voice to see if you can notice how raspy it is. And then I'll compare it to a clip of her in another episode where she sounds her normal self.
That she should go over, pick up his clothes, and don't you feel what she felt?
Now, if we move on to the next episode, that's the 98th episode of I Love Lucy that came out during the time. It was the beginning and the launch of season 4, episode 1, of course. Now, with this one, it's actually the third of the episodes that was filmed in the previous June and was held for the fall. Now, if you listen, Lucille Ball does have that raspy voice in this episode as well, but at this time it's starting to go away. It's pretty much on the tail end of the worst part where she recuperated. Think about how long it took her to get her normal voice back. Moving on to the 99th episode, Mertz and Kurtz. In this one, this is the last episode that they filmed from the previous June. Now, you listen to her, and for the most part, she sounds normal. That is, of course, because it was on the tail end again. It was the last, so she was pretty much recovered. But now we're moving on to the I Love Lucy episode 100, Lucy Cries Wolf. Essentially, to make it simple, this is the one that was filmed right after the sublease. It's the first film episode shot from the previous June for the season, but it was played, that is, third. And if we listen to her, she has a very, very, very raspy voice here. It's very similar to the one that could be heard in the sublease.
Hurry home, honey. Hurry.
Moving on to episode 101 of I Love Lucy, The Matchmaker. This is the second of the shows filmed the previous June. Now, if you listen, her voice is fairly hoarse as well, but it's really not that bad. I think the one where you notice it the most, that's the sublease, and of course, Lucy Cries Wolf. Now that you know the episodes in question and the difference in how Lucille Ball sounded, let's get to the reasons why this happened. Now, it's very important. We'll get to to the answer that Lucie Arnaz Luckenbill, that is Lucie and Desi Arnaz's daughter, has to say. But before we get into that, we do have to talk about the problem of being a smoker. Lucille Ball was a definite smoker. Of course, Desi Arnaz was too, but we're talking about Lucille Ball here, and that definitely contributed to the voice. But I would say that was a very minor thing, because these things that I'll mention are definitely major contributions to the changing of her voice. Now, it has been speculated, and I do add this with an asterisk because it has been speculated, and then later Lucie Arnaz Luckenbill, of course, confirms a little bit of this. So it's just very interesting that Lucille Ball's vocal cords were severely coarsened between the last Lucy Desi Comedy Hour and season 1 of The Lucy Show. Now you may think, wait, what was so special about that, or why did it happen at that time? Well, she was on Broadway, that is Lucille Ball, at a time, and night after night she was performing for a play. It was called Wildcat. Now, during that, she developed, again, speculating, and this is what a lot of people who study her have said, so we're just going by off of that she developed polyps on her larynx, which forever changed the way her voice sounded. Now, if you want to hear this for yourself, I can't upload it, but you can take a look and listen probably on YouTube, is her acceptance speech for the 1968 Emmy Award for The Lucy Show. Now, if you listen, her voice is definitely lower than it was on I Love Lucy. Not only that, but she was straining to squeak her way into that high-pitched I Love Lucy little girl voice that she used to register for the show. It's what made her popular, and it's what people most remembered her for. Now, doing that is what likely damaged her vocal cords. Now, you may think, wait, Rick, you said some of this was speculation. Well, let's look at Lucie Arnaz Luckenbill. While she doesn't give us this detail that others have basically studied Lucille Ball's life and have said, she does corroborate a lot of it. So in an interview, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz's daughter, Lucie Arnaz Luckenbill, said that Lucille Ball had spent many years screaming in a, quote, odd-pitched voice on I Love Lucy. Before that, she was actually told that her voice was very unpleasant, and that obviously affected her. Now, in the 30s and in the 40s, studio executives told her, hey, there's something you can do to deepen your voice, and it would make your acting more dramatic. What did they tell her? It's pretty ridiculous if you think about it. But remember, this was time back when, and I guess at that time there's a desperation to improve, of course. I mean, studio executives are telling you, right? And you're working for them, so you want to do the best job. She was told to go out in a convertible car with the top down and drive really fast, something like 80 miles an hour, and scream into the wind. Yes, they told her to scream into the wind, and that this would develop her voice and strengthen her vocal cords. Now think about that. Of course, Lucie Arnaz Luckenbill adds that after that she had a deep, gravely voice that came. So many people think those three factors, the smoking, the kind of the faux, fake I Love Lucy voice that she was straining to do all the time, and then screaming into the wind like that doesn't have to be the best thing for your vocal cords. And then, of course, the polyps that are speculated to she have had, of course, that's more of a private thing unless that's released to us. But many people, including doctors, have kind of leaked this information out and so forth. I won't hold firm to that, but these other ones are significant enough where I'm presenting them to you in this video. What do you think? Did the voice change in Lucille Ball affect your liking of her, her performances? When did you notice it most? Now, when I talked about these moments in I Love Lucy, those were times where she was just so overworked, straining her voice to do this fake I Love Lucy voice, to give this innocent feel to this character, and eventually it strained her voice. A lot of musicians have done this. Steve Perry from Journey, Rod Stewart, the singer, also had permanent damage. Just how they sing and straining their voice does sometimes give permanent damage. Well, that's it. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for enjoying the video, for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you are a fan of the work that I do, and to like the video. We'll see you next time, and don't forget, be hopeful. Thank you to everyone for their support, especially my Diamond tier patrons: Greg S., Ricky, Sally N., Citizen Kane 359, David D., Kevin K., Vito L., and honorary patron Verbal Volley. If you want to be listed here, make sure to check out the links in the description. Thank you.